How's it everyone? This is Lolcohol, and in today's video I'm going to be going over a lot of the changes that we saw in Exilecon with regards to PoE 2. This is going to be a kind of too long, didn't watch, so it's going to be a rapid fire of all the updates. We will do videos that are more in-depth on specific things. Let's get into it. Firstly, Path of Exile 1 and 2 are going to be separate games. Previously, the idea was to have one game with two campaigns, so you'd have the Path of Exile 1 campaign, Path of Exile 2 campaign, and then they would merge into the end game. However, that's changing. Now it's going to be two separate games with two separate end games. However, things like MTX will transfer across, but it is going to be two separate games. Also, something really cool, it sounds like they are going to continue support on PoE 1 and have separate leagues for that. So Path of Exile 2 will have a league launch, and then maybe 2 months into that, there'll be a Path of Exile 1 league. So if this game hadn't already stolen your soul and taken over your life, well, now it's going to do it twice as much because we're going to have twice as many leagues. Secondly, we should be seeing a few cutscenes. There was a little cutscene that looked like an in-game cutscene, not like a Blizzard tier cutscene, but that's cool. Next, and this is insane, we were expecting maybe one new character class. We are getting 6 new character classes. So each of the different attribute types are going to have 2 classes associated with them. So we're going to have the Witch, the Sorceress, which is new, I think the Shadow and the Monk. If I get this wrong, let me know. Then we're going to have the Ranger and the Huntress. Duelist and Warrior is a new one, and then Marauder and I think Druid, and then Templar and Monk. So they are going to be 12 character classes in Path of Exile 2, not 7. However, this also means that I think Scion might be out of the game, but we will see. Each of these new classes is going to have 3 ascendancies attached to them. So they're going to be 12 classes and 36 ascendancies. That is crazy. I was really expecting maybe one new class with 3 ascendancies. We're getting 6, so 12 classes. Also, throughout the campaign, there are going to be 6 acts. We were expecting 7, but they've cut it down to 6. There are going to be 100 bosses in the campaign itself. Something a bit weird about this, they said some of these bosses are going to be optional and may provide some kind of permanent stat boost or some kind of boost to your character. It kind of reminded me of Altars of Lilith. I hope that there aren't too many or they are too hard, or at least I hope you can do some of these bosses in maps, because having to go out through the campaign to get each of these 100 bosses to get like +2 dexterity, that won't be great. But I think it's amazing that there are 100 bosses. Also bear in mind, a lot of this is subject to change. The game is coming out, by the way, point number I think 7. The closed beta release date, 7th of June 2024. This is later than expected. Obviously, we were hoping that 3.22 was going to be PoE 2, but no. It sounds like maybe late next year will be the release. So Christmas 2024? This is a bit disappointing, obviously. However, it's also great that they are willing to put in the time that the game needs to be ready for release. And there is going to be a closed beta, an open beta, and things are going to change. So next up, gold. Gold is now in Path of Exile. We've never had gold. One of the weirdest things when you first play Path of Exile is that there is no gold. However, they're bringing it back. Gold, you'll be able to use this to buy things from vendors, and if you sell items to vendors, you'll get gold. You'll be able to use the gold to gamble, sort of like with Geed or Gwenin. You buy an unidentified item, and you buy it. It might be magic, it might be rare, it might be unique. So gold is actually going to have a use. However, they haven't really spoken much about its intended use in the end game. However, they said they don't want to have a gold-based economy. It's unlikely you'll be buying gold. Well, you'll be selling items for gold to other players. They want to keep that current system we have where there is an economy based on currency items. Speaking of currency items, there are some new arts for old and new currency items. I think Zizern, we saw an Orb of Augmentation. There was also a leaked picture from, well, not a leaked picture, a picture from Lily showing an Orb of Transmutation with new art. Also, some currency items are going to be doing different things. So for example, Chaos Orbs no longer re-roll the modifiers on a rare item. It's going to act like an augment currently works in Harvest. So it's going to remove a random mod, add a mod. So that's interesting. Also next, dodge rolls are going to be in the game. This is going to be a button on your spacebar, book, and then your character rolls. It's kind of like a dodge. This has no cooldown. It doesn't have any cost, so you can just spam it as you need to. It's not going to be faster than running or walking. It did sound like there will be an iframe involved for people who are used to Souls games. If you dodge at the right time, you might actually be able to avoid damage from specific attacks, but there's no cooldown associated with this. You can spam it to your heart's content. Also, this will help you to animation cancel different spells and abilities. So if you're casting a spell, you can cancel it mid-animation to do a dodge roll. I think that's the only way to animation cancel. I don't think you can just move to animation cancel. We'll have to see. But if you have a spell with a longer cast animation, you can roll out of it. Speaking of animation and canceling and skills, mana costs for skills now are also going to not have an instant cost to cast it. So if you want to use, let's say, Firestorm, you're going to cast it in PoE 1, your mana just goes doof, and then you cast it. In this game, it seems like as the animation plays through, your mana drains throughout the animation. So if you do cancel it, you don't use all the mana to use that skill. Same with for melee attacks and all of that. There are also set to be 200 active skill gems. Also, crowd control mechanics will work on bosses almost in a stagger fashion, where you build up a kind of, let's say, freeze on a boss. You hit freeze, 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 and then it actually gets frozen. Currently in PoE 1, it's very hard to freeze endgame bosses. So in PoE 2, it should be easy to actually crowd control bosses. However, you're not going to be able to cheese bosses, because if you die, you get sent back, and then the boss is at full HP and you have to do it all over again. So this is actually a big change from PoE 1. You can't just cheese bosses. Also, apparently, if you die in an instance, you get sent back to a checkpoint or to the beginning, and all the monsters respawn throughout that instance. Next, Spirit. There's going to be a new resource type called Spirit. This is going to be used for all permanent buffs to your character. So things like auras, things like triggers, and also minions. So if you have zombies, it'll take up a certain amount of your spirit. This means that we're actually going to be able to use our mana bar for its intended purpose and not just try to cut out as much as we can with auras. So you'll be able to have some auras there, you might have minions, you might have a trigger skill, and it's all going to be separated from your mana. Something linked to this is that we are going to have different weapon sets that also have different passive skill trees that match to the weapons. I think it's linked to the weapon, but it's essentially going to have two parallel skill trees running simultaneously that are linked to your weapon. So if you're playing a caster like a sorceress or a witch, currently in PoE, what you want to do is you just want to go all in on cold. If you're going cold and lightning, it's generally kind of cringe. You want to just hyper focus on one elemental type. However, now the weapons will allow you to have multiple trees simultaneously. So, and then you can also link certain skills to those weapons. So you can have your lightning weapon and your cold weapon. And then when you use your cold weapon, it swaps out your passive skill tree for this weapon. And then you go over and use your lightning bolt. And now it uses this weapon, which then uses this skill tree. It's crazy. And what's also cool, caster weapons have built-in skills. So the one skill they showed was like a fireball, and everyone went Omega Lol core skill, and then they're like, but wait, and then they showed this weapon is supported by level 1 Unleash, and then when the guy used the skill, it did 3. It was like 3 meteors. So it's actually hopefully interesting supported skills, and not just this lets you use level 10 fireball, pew, 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 generate some resource. So having 2 parallel skill trees on 2 weapons is going to be ridiculous. I feel horrified for the people working on Path of Building, but good luck. Next up, Uncut Gems. So when gems drop on the ground, it's not going to drop a specific skill gem, it's going to drop something called an Uncut Gem. This will allow you to right click it, and then you can select any skill gem your heart desires. So if you find this on the ground, This means that you can just take whichever skill you need. Does this mean that maybe vendors will not be selling skill gems? Maybe, but I assume these are not going to be so rare that you're going to struggle to find the skills you need. Also, skills are not linked to classes. Some people were worried about this when they showed the new UI on screen. They thought, oh no, Witch can only use these 10 skills. That's not the case. All skills are usable by all classes. However, some skills are going to be linked to weapon types. And speaking of skills, we're going to have 9 skill slots, which are all going to be 6 linkable. This is a massive change in Path of Exile. Currently, you have 1, maybe 2 6 links. Path of Exile 2, you're going to have 9. And something great about this, things like chromatic orbs are going to be more deterministic. So if you have a gem, it's going to go into your like gem page, and it's going to, I think by default, have 2 gem links when you find the gem. So you'll have a 3 link, and then if you find a jeweler's orb, there are going to be, I think, 3 different tiers of jeweler's orbs. There's going to be like a lesser, normal, and greater. When you find that, it'll add the 4th, and then you use the normal one, it'll add a 5th, and then you use the greater jeweler's orb, it'll add a 6th. So none of this clicking and praying that you get lucky. It's going to be deterministic. And same thing with chromes. When you find a chrome, you want to change the color of that socket, you right click it, you click that socket, boom, choose the color. I need it to be blue. It is now blue. However, something different about Path of Exile is that attribute modifiers or attribute requirements on support gems are going to be additive. So if you have a blue gem, it's going to say plus 25 int. So if you have a weird off meta kind of skill where you have a green gem and you're a dex-based class and you have like 5 blue supports, that's going to require a massive amount of intelligence. So there is some drawback to this level of flexibility. You will have to invest more into your attributes. So that's a super quick, too long didn't watch. I'm sure there was a ton of stuff I missed. So if I did miss something and you want to point something out in the comments, please leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that stuff. What do you think? Are you excited for PoE 2? I am. A lot of people said it looked kind of slow, but remember, we only saw a bit of Act 3 gameplay, and it will probably speed up, but I'm very curious what's everyone's first impressions of Path of Exile 2, and also we will do videos on other things now, so have a wonderful day, take care, stay safe, catch you in the next video, bye-bye.
It's ranching, Exile. You're making me nervous.